أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. In the name of Allah, the compassionate, the most merciful, all praise is due to Allah, and may His peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wherever you are, whatever time it may be to you and to your loved ones, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and the blessings of Allah be upon all of you. And thank you again for joining us here on Let's Talk About It on Thursdays. We have a beautiful program today with a beautiful guest, Dr. Muhammad Malley, the principal at Pleasant View School here in Memphis. Dr. Malley, salam alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
It is good to have you back.
Jazakallah khair.
You were actually my first guest when we started this, and it was the very beginning of the school year. And we were talking about the potential challenges that may take place, and Zoom being something new to most of us. And I believe that this week is the last week of school, and next week is finals weeks for our students. And we wish all of them the best, Ya Rabbil Alameen. And we just wanted to chat with you as far as how was the school this semester? How did it go? What were some of the challenges? What is the plan for next year, inshallah? And I think even though we're talking about PVS here in Memphis, but I think you'll be telling us about the challenges. I think would be universal, something that most of the students have gone through. So what were some of the challenges that you faced as a school? Let's begin with that.
I think the biggest challenge is meeting the social and emotional needs of the students. And alhamdulillah, in terms of the academics, our staff and our students were able to quickly adapt to the online learning. And there's actually, some benefits and advantages to teaching online and that we were able to tap into. So when we look at our students, academically, they've been able to maintain, for the most part, not all the students, but the majority of students have been able to maintain or even, exceed the level of academics that they had in previous years. Or the biggest challenge is, meeting the social and emotional needs of students who are, for many of them, staying at home for the last, 8-9 months. There's a feeling of social isolation. There is a level of Zoom fatigue the students get, that it's much harder to, be motivated to learn when you're just doing everything on the computer. So trying to meet those, social emotional needs, I think, is the biggest challenge that our school and other schools face. Now, many other schools have done, hybrid or on-site schooling. Our school made the decision last summer to remain fully remote at the beginning, and then we decided, as the pandemic got worse in Memphis, to remain fully remote this whole first semester. We're looking next semester into starting to have some more, on-site activities, and hopefully to move quickly into actually having a hybrid where we have a full on-site option, especially for the elementary grades. But as a school that remained fully remote for the first semester, that was clearly our biggest challenge, was the social emotional needs, keeping some students motivated and engaged.
And it's interesting you say that, because most of us, somehow we overlook this idea of school is not only a place where students meet their academic needs, but also a place where they meet a lot of their emotional and their social needs.
Yeah, I mean, part of our responsibility as a school is to help our students develop socially. This is the place where they meet, peers of their own age, where they interact with them, where there's a lot of those, extra things that are outside of academics that this year it's much harder to meet than in years when the students are here at the school.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering, my guess is that the lower the grades are, elementary school, and especially like talking about first, second, and third grades, I mean, like making friends and coming to the school and the excitement of being to the school, that is all just missed at this point.
Yeah, that's a big gap that will be that they had this year, and we're trying to make up for it in different ways. And we try to make some of the online activities just purely social, where the kids get together and talk in a big Zoom room. In the past couple months, we started to bring students to the school in small groups, or like one grade at a time. where we do some activities. We usually do some testing. We assess the students on you know, mathematics and reading skills to see if they're progressing as we would like. But then we also have some social activities for them. And the kids really, especially in the elementary grades, they really enjoyed those activities.
Were the parents expected to meet these social and emotional needs, and what were they supposed to be doing?
In the parental role, you're saying like during this time when there's fully remote education, and different parents
Right.
are doing different things. You know, a lot of parents are, you know, like meeting with other families where they have 2 or 3 families that do start meeting socially, and they allow their kids to interact with small groups of students. But I think that having parents spend more time with their own kids is probably the most beneficial thing. And this may be a, they say every cloud has a silver lining. One of the positive things I think that we've seen in this pandemic is that the relations between parents and students, the opportunity to improve them is there for a lot of people. And some parents have told us that they started spending more time with their children than they did in the past, talking to them in deeper issues than they normally would have in the past. And I think that in itself can be very healthy. You know, children are extremely adaptable. They can, you know, adapt to different situations. So I don't think, you know, this past year has had a long-term negative impact on children. If children were out of school for a year, it's not going to, you know, have any, I don't believe any long-term negative impact on them socially. They'll be able to quickly adapt. I think the most important thing is for every family to see what positive thing they can get out of any situation they're in. So if this is the situation they're forced into being, look at what they can do positively. The more time they can spend with their children, the more deeper conversations they can have, you know, to spend time, even simple things like reading with your child for the very young children, you know, doing more of those kind of things, having deeper discussions if your child's in middle school, high school, with the children. And these things are extremely beneficial for students.
I like the tone of optimism that you expressed there, and that is children are very adaptable, and that this will not have a long-term negative impact on them. And I really appreciate that. So to all the parents out there who are concerned about this topic, as far as what I'm hearing you say is that as far as the academic achievement was not, lost, the year was not lost, and even if it was, you're saying that this is something that can be made up for.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of academics, like I said, when we started bringing the kids here, we did do a form of testing that we do. It's an interactive, adaptable test. So when the students like do well, the test gets harder. If they miss a question, it gets easier. It's an online test, but we do it. We did it at the school, and we found that our elementary students, on average, alhamdulillah, we gave the same test to students last February, right before the pandemic hit. So most of the students took this test in late February, and then they took it again in November. In reading, our students from February to November, on average, gained a little bit more than a year. So we see the reading actually, it's in less than a year, in about 8, 9 months, they gained about a year and about 1 month. In math, they gained a year and a half, the elementary grades. So academically, alhamdulillah, I think the average student at Pleasant View School has progressed at the level we would like them to progress. They have gained in 8 months more than a year of reading and math. But also the social, emotional repercussions of the pandemic, staying at home for this long, not interacting with children of their age. Of course, it has an impact on the students, but I think the kids will easily and quickly make up for it. So even that, I'm not too worried about it. That when the pandemic's over, they'll start interacting again. They'll be able to play with other kids. They'll be able to negotiate, those kinds of things. And a lot of times, it's overlooked how important recess is, for example. And sometimes children at the, when they're playing in the recess, even very young children, they will have disputes over certain things, or whose turn is it to play on this or that. And when the children negotiate these things among themselves, they learn very important skills. And those skills are translated later on into their success and leadership skills when they get older. So they have lost that to some extent, but from my experience, they will quickly be able to gain that back. I'm not too worried about it because I think that a few months after the pandemic's over, they will quickly be able to gain those skills back.
Nice, nice. Alrighty. So I think something else that sometimes we don't pay attention to is how are the teachers doing, and how are the teachers coping with this whole thing?
Yeah, actually, we did a survey of our teachers, and we asked them how they were doing, mentally, socially, emotionally, and the vast majority are doing fine. I think the fact that we remained fully remote this semester, it put them at peace of mind from the perspective of the pandemic. It made it easier for them to focus on teaching instead of worrying about all the other kinds of things that they would have to worry about if kids were at the school. Making sure they're socially distant and making sure they're following all the protocols to avoid getting the COVID, and also for them to feel safe and secure. So the fact that they were able to focus on teaching, I think helped a lot. Again, the teachers for the very young students, it's difficult. Teaching online is difficult. I think our teachers are doing a wonderful job, but they've been forced to really stretch, what they're doing in terms of figuring out new ways of dealing with the challenges that they face. And I think that, again, the fact that we were fully remote, I think helped them a lot in doing that because they could really focus on the children's academic needs instead of worrying about other stuff. So alhamdulillah, our teachers are doing fine, and I think that inshallah they'll continue doing fine, inshallah.
Nice. And of course, our love and appreciation is sent to all the teachers who've just really been doing wonderful, mashallah. You did mention something about schools choosing to open versus a school choosing to close. So if you can just take us through that process. How did you come to that decision of not opening during this time? And why did other schools open? And when they opened, what were the protocols in opening?
In the summer, we made plans for all different options. We made plans for if all the kids were actually going to be on campus. And we made plans for if it was fully remote. And then we made the hybrid plan that if, half the kids came, half the kids didn't come. But when we looked at all those plans, and then in July, there was a big spike in the, pandemic in the Shelby County area. We decided to stay fully remote at the beginning, largely because of the pandemic. But I think in making that decision, we realized that by allowing us to focus on the remote teaching only, it had a huge positive impact on the way we were able to deliver our instruction. The same test that we give our students, that we found out that we've had, a little bit over a year of growth in reading and a year and a half in math, those same tests are given on a nationwide basis. And the majority of students have not succeeded to this extent. The majority of students have got even almost negative in some areas, and very like about 3 to 4 months of gain where they should have got over 8 months. So we've done alhamdulillah better than other schools. And I think the reason is because we were able to focus on one mode of instruction. I think that really helped our teachers, and it really helped our students in the long run. Now again, we're thinking of beginning a hybrid form of instruction in the next semester. And the main reason is to help with the social emotional needs of the students, that by allowing them to come back to school, by allowing them to interact. Inshallah, we still on?
We are still on.
Okay, I don't know why my video went out. By allowing them to interact with the students, with other students of their age, inshallah, they will gain those social emotional aspects, while we'll try to ensure that we keep teaching in a way that's most effective for the students. So inshallah, I think the next semester, we're still waiting to see how the pandemic pans out. If we follow the CDC guidelines, with children wearing masks, with staying socially distant, teachers wearing masks, of course. We're also working with public health authorities to begin a COVID testing program at the school. So if kids are coming to the school, we would be testing them on a regular basis, maybe once or twice a month. Frequently testing them to see if anyone is asymptomatic, that we would make sure they're not attending the school, and make sure and we'll be testing everybody. So we'd be seeing if other students also will be testing positive. So I believe you know, the teaching can be done safely, and that's been seen in many other schools, that students have come back to school. They have not had that many, you know, COVID outbreaks at the school level. But there's two issues here. So is it not only is it safe to come back, but what is the most effective academically? As I said, we've done very well academically teaching remotely. Teaching on site with the CDC guidelines will be harder than teaching remotely. So it can be done on site, and especially if there's a hybrid option where you have half the kids at school, half the kids at home. I mean, all these factors will take into account. So the decision will be not just, you know, do we bring the kids back because it's safe to do so, but also when we bring the kids back, what are we going to do to ensure that we continue being successful academically with their academic progress.
Okay, so you just said something there that excited me as a parent, and then somehow you took it back from me when you said that it is much easier to teach this way than it is to teach with the kids at school if you were to follow the CDC guideline.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
You know, according to CDC guidelines, you know, the students will be 6 feet apart. They will all face, you know, one direction. You don't want to have kids in a circle having discussion. The kids will be wearing masks. The teacher will be wearing a mask. When we're doing, and there will be very little movement. So we'll try to limit, you know, children moving from one class to another class as much as possible. All of these things hinder the ideal situation for academics. So when we put all these guidelines into place, we have to think, is coming back worth it from the academic perspective? It might be well worth it for the social emotional perspective, but not all kids are going to benefit academically from coming back. Even though, you know, in generic, you know, theoretical sense, if there is no pandemic, students will learn better at school than they do online for the most part. But when we follow all the CDC guidelines, that might change, especially, and this is what a lot of schools have struggled with, if we have the hybrid system. If a teacher, instead of teaching fully remote or fully online, has to teach with half the students online and half the students in the classroom, it's going to, you know, hinder their ability to teach the same level as if they can focus on either teaching online or teaching to the kids at school. So academically, there will be, you know, a lot of new challenges that we'll face if we try to grow the hybrid system. And the schools that are doing the hybrid are already, you know, facing these challenges, and they're not easy to overcome. And I think that's why the schools that have gone hybrid have not been able to have as much academic success as we have. But again, that's not to say that it's not important for the kids to have an on-site option. And we realize that, and we want to make sure that we can provide that option when it becomes safe to do so.
And when you speak of the hybrid program, you're talking about a full day at the school. Is this?
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be full day, but like, for example, in the plan that we came up with in the summer, that we were planning to, when we plan to start the hybrid, we were going to have the elementary students at the school from 8 o'clock to either 12 or 12:30 or 1. We hadn't determined exactly, because having the salah at the school, with all the kids having to make wudu and then come to salah, that would be one of the things that would be hard to maintain the social distancing in an efficient manner. And then eating lunch also, because when you eat lunch, you have to take the mask off. And what we're seeing nationwide now is that, you know, the virus spreads very quickly at these times. So if we have the kids, you know, sitting down 6 feet apart, wearing their mask, then all of a sudden at lunchtime they take their masks off, and during that, you know, half-hour lunchtime they're eating and talking, that would be the time when the virus would spread. So we would try to avoid that. So we would try to end the day early and have some online classes in the afternoon, but we try to get most of the instruction from, say, 8 to 12. Then let the kids go home and pray at home and eat at home, and then have some more classes maybe in the afternoon.
Nice. And Dr. Mali, I remember that when we met the first time, we had different kinds of advice and tips for the parents as far as how to deal with um, COVID and what have you. So, if this remains to be the mode of education that we will be having next semester, do you have any other tips as a result of what we have learned from this semester coming into the or going into the next semester? Anything that has changed, would you say?
The tips that I would have for the parents, first of all, is to spend quality time with your child, talking to them about what they're doing in school. Uh, Second, I would try to encourage them to read as much as possible. Reading is an extremely beneficial thing, especially again for the elementary grade. I mean, all grades, obviously, even adults, it's very beneficial to read. But the more the children read, the more they build the vocabulary, the more they build their decoding skills, just reading things that they enjoy reading. And that also will get them off the screen for a while, so they can actually read some books that they enjoy. It doesn't have to be because the teacher assigned it. It doesn't have to be because it's for a grade. To read for enjoyment is extremely important. So things that the students like to read. Some students like nonfiction, some like history, some like some scientific things. The more they read, the better. And the third thing is to encourage your children to find a passion and to really pursue it. Some students have a passion for the Quran. Let them memorize, use the extra time they have to memorize more Quran. Some students have passions for other things. We have a student right now who's basically self-teaching themselves Spanish. They have a passion for it, and they're going at a very high level, all on their own. There's a lot of online tools and resources where the students can go and learn things on their own. One of the most important things, this summer we had uh, a theme that we had for the summer, and we had all the high school students read a book by Angela Duckworth called Grit. And grit, Angela Duckworth defines grit as the combination of passion and hard work. And she explains that it's not just hard work. Sometimes we think of grit as being just you work hard, you kind of get whatever you want. But Dr. Duckworth focused on the fact that you have to have a passion for it as well. And her argument was that when you have a passion for something and you work hard at it, you can succeed at anything that you do. One of the problems many of the youth today face is they don't really know what their passion is. And it takes some time to think about it if they don't know what it is. And you want it to be something productive. It shouldn't just be, playing a video game, which a video game could be a passion if it's done in the right way. If you want to really get involved in terms of, how to make the video game and things like that, that can be productive. But if it's something that seems to be just a waste of time, watching a TV show or playing a video game, we want the kids to get, passionately involved in things that will be productive, and that they enjoy. And this is another thing that we're finding for university admissions. The vast majority, I think more than 95% of universities have made the ACT, SAT optional this year. They're not really looking at the test scores anymore. They know that because of the pandemic, those test scores are not very fair. And actually, they were never equitable for a number of reasons. And universities have been struggling with this issue for years, and the pandemic kind of pushed them to the level where they've now made all their things test optional. But how are they, what are they using for admissions now? One of the most important things is they want to see that a student, when they're applying for college, have had some passion for the past 3-4 years in high school, and they've pursued it throughout those 3-4 years. And it could be anything. I mentioned Quran before. Students who memorize the Quran in high school, it's almost guaranteed to get into a good college. If you can write essays about that and explain the process you go through in actually memorizing a 600-page book and the struggles you've went. And these students, Shaykh Yasir has mentioned this before in Yale University, where students got in because they had memorized the Quran. You can't say one reason, but when they wrote their admissions essay about the struggle they went through in doing it, why it's important for them, what it entailed in terms of the time and effort they put into it, and how it's changed their lives. And those are excellent essays. Shaykh Yasir mentioned a student in Yale. I know a student who did the same thing and got into another Ivy League school. So it's whatever passion you have, if you truly pursue it, and again, go beyond what you're required to do in school. Sometimes students just want to get those A's, they want to get those grades, and that's it. But if you like any class, the student should, go well beyond what the requirements are to find more about that subject they have a passion in. We have students doing research right now in science labs at the university. They have a lot more time now without having to commute to and from school, and they're going to universities and going into a lot of depth in science. As I mentioned, our Quran teacher telling us they're seeing huge improvements in terms of Quran memorization and understanding than they had in the past with some students. So find out what your passion is and use the extra time you have now to pursue that passion. Students have a lot of extra time in their hands. When you consider the amount of time they spent in the class compared to the amount of time they used to spend in school. So if a student was in school from, 8 to 3:30, that generally means they have to wake up about 6 o'clock and they're going to get home at around 4:30. Whereas the amount of time they're in the actual class is usually about 4.5 hours. So they have an extra 4 or 5 hours a day that they could spend in a productive pursuit if they found that pursuit was and had that drive to actually pursue it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I really appreciate what you've just shared with us, Dr. Malley. One thing that I also like to remind the parents of is, the idea of just being in these close proximities for as long as we have. It can be a time for interaction, but it can also lead to friction. And that's why I say, please, if one thing is just, undue rigidity is not welcomed. And also, if we can just, you know, cool it down with criticism, I think that'll just bring more peace into the household. And when do we find out what PVS is going to do for next semester?
Again, we're watching, what's happening with the pandemic very closely. We did a survey of our parents. The survey we had, significant numbers of parents who wanted to remain remote, and we had a significant number who wanted to return immediately. So we have, various different desires among our parent body. What we'll do after the winter break, there's expected to probably be another spike. And right now, as you're aware, the pandemic right now is worse than it's ever been in the country. So it's, right now it's very dangerous time. We want people to be safe. The probably what's going to happen during the winter break is, a lot of times you're going to travel a lot. There's going to be a lot more interaction. So the expectation is that even though a vaccine's available, there's probably going to be a big spike in January. So we want to avoid bringing, everybody back right away. What we're planning on doing is starting January 11th, the second week after we get back, is to increase the amount of small level activities that we have at the school. So we'll start having more of the PE classes, at Pleasant View School. We'll have probably some, science lab activities at the school. We only bring, 30, 40 kids at a time to the school and keep them, very socially distant. When we move into February, but by late January, we're hoping to see where the pandemic is. We're hoping to see, if the vaccine has started being distributed to at least medical professionals, maybe some others, and based on the level of safety, we would hope to be able to start coming back in February, where we have this option of having a fully on-site option for parents.
Nice. Nice. Dr. Malley, it is always a pleasure to be talking to you. Appreciate your insight and your tips. And I must ask you again, what do you do for self-care?
I think, I really enjoy working with students, and I really enjoy the work that the school does. So sometimes I think when I get engrossed in my work, I think that's what gives me, a feeling of satisfaction and happiness.
Nice. May Allah always keep you happy along with your loved ones, Ya Rabbal Alameen. And the same is also extended to our viewers. May Allah keep us all happy and safe and sound, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Like Dr. Malley said, we are expecting, we've been told that, we're going to see a spike, especially after the winter break travels. Please, please, please please do stay safe. And what is it? The 3 W's: wash your hands, wear a mask, and always, keep a distance or stay away. And that's what we want to see us happening. There is a lot of fatigue that is going on, the pandemic fatigue, along with the Zoom fatigue that you spoke about, Dr. Maali. But nevertheless, please, please be safe. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Maali. You were our first guest before the beginning of the school year, and now you are our last guest, inshallah. We will be seeing you the very first Thursday of 2021. May Allah keep us all safe along with our loved ones, Ya Rabbil Alameen. And until then, we say so long and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaykum assalam wa barakatuh. Jazakumullahu khairan.